Lights, camera, invocation of the muses. Let's play a little game. Let's imagine you're a native islander in a remote island in the South Pacific. Suddenly, a bunch of Americans show up in boats and set up camp near your village. They have lots of strange equipment and they do weird things like brushing their teeth and wearing goggles. Soon, as the airstrip is finished, planes start arriving bringing more supplies than you've ever seen in your entire life. Clearly, these are gifts from the gods, these strange people. Based on your frame of reference, if you do the same things, you perform the right rituals, you'll be granted those same divine blessings. However, eventually World War II ends and the Americans leave, taking their equipment with them. Not only did you not fully understand what they were doing, you now must rely solely on memory to recreate the supposed rituals. Let's say you go so far as to successfully recreate an airstrip complete with a runway, fake aircraft, a radio tower with bamboo antenna, and a control operator with wooden headphones. But the plane never comes. Okay, so you need more faith. You start building new huts to store all the supplies, and maybe even destroy your crops as an act of faith because you won't need them anymore. The American supplies were delivered so regularly, it's only a matter of time. The rituals persist over decades, slowly losing their similarity to the thing they were imitating until they're something else altogether. With each generation, the truth gets more and more muddied with evolving cultural expectations and understandings, losing the details of... This is gonna fall. Okay, I think we're good. With each generation, the truth gets more and more muddied with evolving cultural expectations and understandings, losing the details of what actually happened. It's like a game of telephone. Before long, you've built a religion, an entire system of meaning that is so far from the truth that it ultimately means nothing. This actually happened. It's called a cargo cult. The Backrooms is an internet horror concept from 2019. The original 4chan post says, if you're not careful and you clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you. Based on this single image and description, an internet classic was born. One teenager named Kane Parsons, known on YouTube as Kane Pixels, started making his own web series about the Backrooms. It got so much attention that Kane Parsons directed the Backrooms movie that was released by A24 this past week. He adds a lot to the world of the Backrooms: Async, Ivan Beck, and the still life rot monsters. And while I find those lore elements and their delivery gripping and fascinating, I find myself consistently drawn back to the central horror of the Backrooms themselves. In the first teaser for the film, one of the protagonists, who's played by an actor whose name I will not try to pronounce, says that the complex doesn't just build endless rooms. He says it's though the rooms are being remembered. And the more times it remembers something, the less it does. Sound familiar? It's like when you say a word over and over again and it loses all meaning. That loss of meaning is the horror inherent to the Backrooms.
Alright, that was good. I'm thinking we get a wide angle, and then we're done.
Kane Parsons has said that he believes the Backrooms is exploring, quote, the idea of the world getting smaller and smaller. A lot of people are now voicing an anxiety about feeling as though they are lacking a purpose or lacking a feeling of connectedness. It's about the loss of belief in anything, really, and that reflects our life. Our institutions have lost our trust. Corporations, algorithms, politicians, religious leaders. Every form of media from TikTok to film to news has grifters pushing an agenda for money or influence. Studios cannibalize franchises to keep profiting off of the love that we had for stories that used to be good. The Emperor's wearing no clothes and nothing means anything anymore. In that way, the complex is just an honest reflection of our own world. We can see the little details that used to mean something, but now the tables and chairs are too tall or the words are reversed. The endless mono-yellow hallways with no clear direction or purpose expose our societal institutions for what they are: empty, unplanned rooms with imitation meaning. If they once meant something, they don't anymore. They're just continuing systems established in a bygone age, like a train that's only moving forward because it's moving downhill. There are no more legends of human destiny, and if there were, we wouldn't believe them. We've seen outside the map of the game designed for us and redefined the basic building blocks of identity. Everything is a social construct now. That's what liminal space horror is about. Can you believe the world around you? Is reality even real?
This isn't real. This isn't real.
Now, this isn't a new idea. Like most profound ideas, Greek philosophers beat us to it. Plato's allegory of the cave conveys the idea that everything we perceive with our senses is but shadows on a cave wall. If you turn your head through reason, philosophy, you can find your way out of the cave and see the real thing, the true form of the thing. Things are beautiful because in some aspect they reflect the true form of beauty, and etc. We argue over abstract concepts like justice and gender and the nature of love because these sounds that we call words are tied to a real thing we just can't express clearly. It's as if we're trying to grasp the details of something through a thick plastic sheet. Maybe we can discern the size, color, and basic shape, but at some point we have to start comparing it to other things because we can't get through the plastic. I can't really explain what inner peace is like, but I can compare it to a glassy lake reflecting the majesty of the sky. I can't explain what being in love is, but I can describe the flutter of butterflies, and that's pretty close. This is why ancient cultures used myths to explain things in metaphor and story, expressing abstract truths in ways more accurate than the simple categories of mere words. The rituals of religion can be used to control and satiate the masses, but they also originate to communicate the nature of a divine being or a divine truth in a way that words on their own simply can't. Let's say hypothetically that a real God is out there. People from thousands of years ago developed a primitive way of communicating with and relating to this being beyond their comprehension. They developed rituals and traditions and passed those disciplines down to their children. But over time, what began as hard-fought wisdom becomes aesthetics, a tribal marker no more meaningful than your favorite sports team. But what if that God was actually real, or at least the thing that we called God really meant something important? But now our understanding of what that could be is so thoroughly muddled by generations of telephone. That's what the Backrooms confronts us with, the fear that the categories we've built our lives around are meaningless. What if there is a deep, profound truth that will give us meaning, but our categories have so distantly diverged from that truth that we can never find our way back? What if one day you wake up having realized your categories of love and truth are as empty as the mono-yellow hallways of the complex? What if you're already in the Backrooms? Over the last few generations, society en masse has kind of been trained to question every established idea. We're the dwarves in Lewis's The Last Battle. When confronted with the corrupt institutions telling them that Aslan and Tash are the same god, they concluded that there's no god at all. To hell with the whole idea. And like Milton's Satan, they only managed to make a hell of heaven, unable to see heaven even when they're literally standing in it in universe, and they only see darkness instead. They were so intent on not being taken in by anyone's deceit that they can't be taken out of their own delusions. I think most of this started around the time of the Victorian era with people like Rousseau, Marx, Freud, Darwin. Freud argued, for instance, that religion was essentially a result of projection and wish fulfillment. As children, we see our fathers as powerful and moral authorities. When we're older, we ascribe those same features onto the universe itself, inventing a divine father as a cosmic protector. And this is like the Green Witch, the queen of the underworld in the silver chair. You see a cat, and you want a bigger and better cat, and you call it a lion. You see a torch, and you want a bigger and better torch, so you call it the sun. In other words, all our systems of meaning are just illusions. We give them greater purpose than they actually have. But there is no abstract deeper meaning, there is no greater purpose, and there is no Queen of England. Religion, political parties, gay, straight, it's all as empty as the Backrooms. When we no-clip into the complex's endless empty hallways, we're no-clipping into the lucid recognition of meaninglessness. But therein lies the catch. When you no-clip out of a game's intended design, it doesn't expose the game as meaningless. It highlights the intentionality and art of the developer. I can recognize being outside the intended map as a flaw in the design because I can recognize what the intended gameplay is. There is a perfect form of this thing that I can conceptualize, even if only in theory. But perhaps that theory is a reflection of a more perfect thing that does exist. I'm unsatisfied by a loveless relationship because I somehow have a concept of what love is supposed to be that I can't express properly. I'm disappointed and frustrated when a politician doesn't live up to their expressed ideals because I, for some reason, expect people to be honorable and noble. The uncanny valley only unsettles me because I know what the real thing is like.
Meow?
René Magritte called this painting the treachery of images. The French words mean this is not a pipe. And it's not a pipe. It's a reflection of one, an image. We recognize it as a pipe because we know what a real pipe looks like. And in the same way, the purposeless hallways of the complex aren't really purposeless at all. In all our experiences with the Backrooms, someone like Kane Parsons designed them with intent, or designed a program to randomly generate them. They create a feeling of meaninglessness that is by design. Even as we buy into the fiction that the complex is unpredictable and without purpose, we look for the logical explanation that answers the riddle of its existence. Despite Freud, despite the dwarves, we all instinctively look for order and intention. When things don't make sense, we're confused, disappointed. We say it's a glitch, a flaw in the design. We expect to find purpose because it's there. We recognize an image as a pipe because there is such a thing as a pipe. That was bound to happen sooner or later. Our institutions might be corrupt and broken, but that doesn't mean the ideals they're supposed to represent are fake as well. Even if my expressions of goodness or kindness aren't perfect, my chairs are a little too high or my words are spelled backwards, that doesn't give me the right to not try and recreate those things, to not try and express goodness and kindness at all. My beliefs and convictions may be as far from truth as the cargo cult. It's an echo of an echo of an echo, remembering less and less the more it does. But something real is casting the shadow. The only other alternative that I see is to abdicate responsibility entirely, making the meaninglessness of the backrooms your home and becoming one of the many monsters lost inside. Thanks for watching.